Hello, time for another Man and Great book review. Today's book is Two Cures for Love, Selected Poems 1979-2006 by Wendy Cope, published in 2009 by Faber and Faber. It's 96 pages. Wendy Cope is one of the most popular and beloved poets in the UK. She's not very well known in the United States. Her poetry tends to be very humorous. A lot of it rhymes, which is kind of unusual in contemporary poetry. And a lot of it is very satirical, has a satirical edge to it. A lot of the poems are about relationships. Some of them are parodies of other famous poets like Ted Hughes. Even though Wendy Cope is a very popular and respected poet in the UK, she's been very reluctant to publish her poetry. In 45 years, she's only released 5 original volumes of poetry, plus this anthology, which is made up of poems from her first 3 poetry volumes. Most of her poems are quite short, and so I'm going to read 2 of them to you, give you an idea of their flavor. Probably her most famous poem is one called "The Orange," which ironically is not really typical of most of her writing, but I'll read to you anyway because it's so well known. So here's "The Orange" by Wendy Cope. At lunchtime, I bought a huge orange. The size of it made us all laugh. I peeled it and shared it with Robert and Dave. They got quarters, and I got a half. And that orange, it made me so happy, as ordinary things often do. Just lately, the shopping, a walk in the park, this is the peace and contentment. It's new. The rest of the day was quite easy. I did all the jobs on my list and enjoyed them and had some time over. I love you. I'm glad I exist. So that was "The Orange." Here's another poem that's also fairly well known, and it's more typical of her writing. It's called Rondo Redoublé by Wendy Cope. There are so many kinds of awful men. One can't avoid them all, she often said. She'd never make the same mistake again. She always made a new mistake instead. The chinless type who made her feel ill-bred. The practiced charmer, less than charming, when he talked about the wife and kids and fled. There are so many kinds of awful men. The half-crazed hippie deeply into sin, whose cryptic homilies she came to dread. The fervent youth who worshipped Tony Benn. One can't avoid them all, she often said. The aging banker, rich and overfed, who held forth on the dollar and the yen. Though there were many more mistakes ahead, she'd never make the same mistake again. The budding poet scribbling in his den, odes not to her, but to his pussy Fred. The drunk who fell asleep at 9 or 10, she always made a new mistake again. And so the gambler was at least unwed, and didn't preach or sneer or wield a pen, or hoard his wealth or take the Scotch to bed. She lived and learned and lived and learned, but then there are so many kinds. So that was Rondo Redoublé by Wendy Cope. So if these kinds of poems appeal to you, and they do appeal to a lot of people, you might enjoy picking up this book. It's Two Cures for Love, Selected Poems, 1979-2006. The author is Wendy Cope. This has been another Man and Great book review. Thanks for watching.